Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Hello and welcome to Neurology Made Easy. Today the topic we are going to discuss is about emotions, behaviors, and we will talk a little bit about sleep cycle. So let's begin. We do have a lot of emotions. Sometimes we feel happy, sometimes we feel sad, sometimes we feel angry, sometimes we feel surprise. So how all of these emotions are controlled? What is the control center in our brain that controls all the emotion that we will discuss today? Then come the behaviors. Today we will discuss three behaviors: feeding behavior, then we will discuss the sexual behavior, and we will also talk about the motivational behavior. So, feeding behavior, sometimes you feel hungry, sometimes you are full and you don't want to eat. Then, sexual drive in the person, how it is controlled. Then, motivation, how you are motivated to do something. When you get a reward, you want to repeat that thing. So, we will talk about that also. And we will talk a little bit about our circadian rhythm, how this is controlled, and we will see which is the center for this in our brain. So important thing is this diagram. You see this amygdala. So amygdala gets a lot of input from various structures such as posterior association cortex or the posterior association area. This I have marked as PAA. Then somatosensory cortex and somatosensory association cortex. SS, I have marked it with SS. Then temporal lobe, insular cortex, visual cortex, auditory cortex, prefrontal cortex. All of these areas, they send input to the amygdala. And from this area, this amygdala, this information later goes to the septal area and the hypothalamus. First, we will discuss the feeding behaviors. So, amygdala has connections with hypothalamus. And in hypothalamus, we have two important nuclei. One is ventromedial nucleus and the other is lateral hypothalamic nucleus. So here I am going to draw, I'm going to write these in ventromedial nucleus and lateral hypothalamic nucleus. This ventromedial nucleus is responsible for satiety, that is the feeling that we are full and we do not want to eat more. And this lateral hypothalamic nucleus controls the hunger and it makes us feel that we are hungry and we need to eat something. Both of these nucleus, this ventromedial nucleus and lateral hypothalamic nucleus, they are under the influence of arcuate nucleus. This arcuate nucleus modulates these by releasing some neuropeptides. So the arcuate nucleus, it releases alpha melanocyte stimulating hormone and cocaine amphetamine regulated transcript. So I repeat, this arcuate nucleus, it sends the neuropeptides, this alpha melanocyte stimulating hormone, I have marked it as alpha MSH, and cocaine amphetamine regulated transcript, CART. So it sends these to the ventromedial nucleus, and it sends the neuropeptides, neuropeptide Y and agouti regulated protein to the lateral hypothalamic nucleus. So by releasing these neuropeptides, this arcuate nucleus modulates the ventromedial nucleus and lateral hypothalamic nucleus, and hence the ventromedial nucleus, it releases corticotropin releasing hormone and induces satiety, and the lateral hypothalamic nucleus, it releases orexins and that stimulates hunger. So how these are stimulated? You know, when you have more fat in your body, then there is a release of leptin. When you eat more, you have more glucose in the body, and there is release of insulin from the pancreas. Third point is that when you eat, you feel that your GI tract is distended, and there is stimulation of vagus nerve because of distension. Cranial nerve 10, that is vagus nerve, it is stimulated. So when all of these are present, that you have a release of leptin because of fat, you have release of insulin because of high glucose, your GI tract is distended, then they all stimulate the satiety. On the other hand, when you are fasting, your stomach releases. So when you are fasting, your stomach releases ghrelin, and that stimulates the hunger center. So this is all about the feeding behavior, how we feel satiety and how we feel hunger. The next I will tell you that if there is damage to any of these centers, then what will happen. So what happens when there is damage to these centers? When there is damage to the ventromedial nucleus, so the patient will eat more and more, and that will lead to obesity. The second one is lateral hypothalamic nucleus. When there is damage to the lateral hypothalamic nucleus, there in children there will be failure to thrive, and in adults mostly there is anorexia nervosa. There is also another nucleus that is called dorsomedial nucleus. We have not talked about it, but damage to it can cause savage behavior, such as cruel. A person acts in a very cruel manner. So maybe for MCQs it is important, dorsomedial nucleus. So next we will talk about the sexual behaviors. Again, here I will show that amygdala has connections with hypothalamus, or it sends stimulus to the hypothalamus. In hypothalamus, we have two important nuclei. We have many important nuclei, but here two are important in this regard. One is paraventricular nucleus, and the other is medial preoptic nucleus. So this paraventricular nucleus, it releases oxytocin, and the medial preoptic nucleus, it releases gonadotropin gonadotrophin releasing hormone, which acts on the anterior pituitary and causes the release of testosterone. We had already discussed it when we talked about the hypothalamic pituitary tract and the portal hypothalamic pituitary portal system. So oxytocin is released from the posterior pituitary and the testosterone is released from the anterior pituitary. So you can see the video if you do not remember that part, but both. Now comes the motivational behavior. Here I will show a diagram. This I am showing the hypothalamus and below it the mammillary body. This is the prefrontal cortex. This is the septal area. Here I am drawing the amygdala. So this amygdala, it sends signal to the septal area and to the hypothalamus. In the previous diagram we had seen that amygdala gets a lot of input from all of the centers. So, and then it gives output to the septal area and to the hypothalamus. From the septal area and to the hypothalamus, then the signal goes to the ventral tegmental area. And from the ventral tegmental area, it goes to nucleus accumbens and to the prefrontal cortex. It is a bit complicated, but I will again explain it. So I will repeat it now in the written form. First I have made a diagram. Now I will write it. Amygdala sends signal to the septal area and to the hypothalamus. Both of these areas send information or the signal to the ventral tegmental area. This ventral tegmental area, then there are many dopaminergic neurons, and it sends signal to the prefrontal area and to the nucleus accumbens. So this ventral tegmental area is rich in dopamine secreting cells, and dopamine, when there is increased release of dopamine, it gives the feeling of reward or a positive feeling. So this ventral tegmental area, it has connection through mesocortical pathway with the prefrontal cortex and through the mesolimbic pathway with the nucleus accumbens. So when these areas are stimulated, there is increased release of dopamine by the dopaminergic neurons in the ventral tegmental area, and this gives a feeling of reward. So when there is a feeling of reward, the person will try to repeat that thing. It can be good in some manner and it can be bad also. When there is a drug abuse, the person feels euphoric, and this will be a vicious cycle. That okay, I get very excited and happy after taking this drug. I should take it more and more. So it can be bad, but it can be good also when someone performs good in an exam and he or she gets good marks, and then he or she gets the reward. So it's also good in that manner. Here I will tell you about Clover-Brucey syndrome. Also, in this syndrome there is bilateral amygdala damage. Of the amygdala damage, amygdala is a center for controlling a lot of behaviors. So there is hyperphagia, patient sleeps a lot, placidity, that is, he does not respond appropriately. There is hyperorality, hypersexuality, and somnolence. Mm, So, and also there is amnesia also. So this is called Clover-Bucy syndrome, and it is because of the damage to the amygdala bilaterally. It is important for MCQs and also for case scenarios. It is important. Okay, next we will talk about the emotions. So again here, important thing is amygdala, and amygdala sends signal to the hypothalamus. In hypothalamus we have posterior hypothalamic nucleus, and we also have arcuate nucleus. This arcuate nucleus releases corticotropin releasing hormone that later on causes a release of ACTH from the anterior pituitary, and ACTH stimulates release of cortisol from the adrenal gland. On the other hand, this posterior hypothalamic nucleus, it sends signal to the spine and to the thoracolumbar region in the sympathetic preganglionic neurons. Later on, these sympathetic neurons will later on go to the different viscera, and when there is stimulation, there is, for example, we a person sees a loin, or he is afraid, there is situation of fear, fight and fright. So this will be activated, and there will it will cause the liver to increase the glucose level by breakdown of glycogen. Then there will be increase in heart rate, the blood pressure will be increased, because the muscles need more perfusion, more blood supply, and their respiratory rate will also be increased. Moreover, the cortisol is also a stress hormone. So whenever there are emotions, this all of this is activated, and we respond accordingly. This is an example of fear, fight and fright. There are other examples also, but main thing is that amygdala gets a lot of stimulus from the visual cortex. Okay, what we see, what we smell, what we taste, and all the other, what we feel, the touch, so somatosensory cortex, and then it responds accordingly. Okay, now we will talk a little bit about sleep cycle. So the sleep cycle and the circadian rhythm, it is controlled by suprachiasmatic nucleus in the hypothalamus. This suprachiasmatic nucleus get input from the optic nerve, that is the cranial nerve 2, through the retinohypothalamic tract. And later on it sends signal to the pineal gland. This suprachiasmatic nucleus, it sends signal to the pineal gland and promotes the release of melatonin. This melatonin, this hormone that promotes healthy sleep. Important thing is that melatonin release is increased during darkness. When there is dark outside, when there is darkness, more melatonin will be released, or and that will promote healthy sleep. So this is how our sleep is controlled, and why we feel sleepy when there is more darkness in the evening time. We want to take rest, we want to go to sleep. The other thing is that when we use a lot of mobile in the laptop screens or TV, watch a lot of TV, there also this cycle is disturbed, and we will sleep late, and then we will wake up late, and whole of the day will be disturbed. So it's better to put the mobiles and laptops aside at night and take proper rest for a healthy lifestyle. So if you like the video, press the like button. So I feel encouraged that I am benefiting someone through this knowledge. Subscribe also and share with your friends. Keep smiling, stay safe, stay healthy. If you have any questions regarding this topic or any other topic, you can write in the comment section, or you can message me on Facebook page. Till next time, take care. Allah Hafiz.